The weaknesses of every artillery unit in Noobs in Combat and how not to use them. For all artillery, you need to be careful not to let it get snuck up on or run out of ammo. Though it should be behind the front lines, artillery should not be left completely alone. Flanking infantry or lack of supplies will shatter any support you are going to get from your artillery. Alright, now on to the specifics. Being infantry, the mortar team may be able to move through rough terrain much easier than other artillery, but its abysmally small range means it has to get close to the front lines. It is constantly in danger of being hit by enemy crowd control artillery, especially rockets, and if your units ahead of it are killed, that's likely a death sentence for your mortar. The mortar is also weak to anything with armor, as it provides your army nearly no support against them. The field gun may be able to defend itself and move on its own, but it is still highly vulnerable to being overwhelmed, especially by infantry. Its self-defense is its field direct attack, but it will prove to be very ineffective against large numbers of units. Its ability to move on its own may be good for getting it repositioned, but will not be remotely useful for getting it to escape enemies. Finally, I recommend keeping it out of forested areas, as that severely limits the range of field direct. When it comes to the field gun's actual attack, I'd say it's sort of a jack of all trades, so there aren't any ground units that can counter it super well. The mobile field gun is basically just a field gun with significantly less weaknesses. Its mobility allows it to actually escape enemy units, and its armor allows it to be much more resistant to infantry since most are ineffective against it. It can still be overwhelmed by armored units with a lot of firepower, but as long as it stays behind the front lines, you shouldn't have to worry much about that. The howitzer's support is much greater than the normal field gun, but its weaknesses are much more of a threat as well. Being towed only, it cannot be repositioned or escape enemy units, which makes it very easy for enemies to find its location since they can see where the attacks came from. It also cannot defend itself, so its real weakness is any breach in your main attacking force. Fortunately, this can be helped by the fact that its range is so massive, which means it doesn't have to be too close to the fighting. Make sure to take advantage of this whenever you can. The mobile howitzer, like the mobile field gun, is just a less vulnerable version of the howitzer that may also be used for offense instead of just defense. It has armor to help against infantry and can escape enemies with its mobility. I still would be careful with it, however, since unlike the mobile field gun, it cannot defend itself. The rocket battery is mostly weak to the same things as the non-mobile field guns and howitzers, but with a little more to take into consideration. Its actual rocket attack can be dangerous for your own unit, so I recommend also considering what radio units you're using, along with how to keep the rocket battery alive. The sniper team is a great way to remotely launch rockets without risk, but the riflemen are a terrible way of launching rockets, as it is pretty much guaranteeing their death. So as long as you're confident that the rocket battery is safe, it's really just the radios you need to worry about. If you're not sure that it is in fact safe, you might want to try using the rocket truck. It has very light armor, which mostly just diminishes the threat of infantry, and it has huge mobility. Since it runs on tires, I do recommend keeping it near a road, as that will allow it to escape any threat effortlessly. However, it does launch 4 rockets instead of 3, so you will need to be even more careful with what radio you use. The assault gun range is quite poor, so it will need to be very close to the fighting. Fortunately, infantry flanking isn't a huge problem since it is armored. Now, I'd say its main use is fighting enemy units inside of buildings, since it is much more likely to destroy said buildings. However, this does mean that you will need to get radio units close to the buildings, which could be dangerous. Though you could theoretically use the attack without a radio, if it's close enough, that means really getting up into the fighting. The bunker buster may be quite powerful, but it is also quite defenseless. While not completely, but definitely more than the assault gun. Both can attack nearby without a radio, but since the bunker buster has splash damage, it cannot shoot right next to itself. It also has a longer cooldown than the assault gun, which makes it very difficult for it to defend itself. Alright, that's artillery down. Thanks for watching till the end of the video, and I will see you next time, as long as you like and subscribe, or maybe I'll see you anyway because you just happened to be recommending my next video. Okay, enough rambling. Bye.